If you ever had an idea so grand, so great that you need to follow it to fruition no matter how much it takes, how much energy it takes. This is not one of those ideas. Instead, today we're going to be making a Star Wars tier list video. I've been rewatching a lot of Star Wars movies and I thought it would be a really fun thing to do. It's not the highest quality content, but it is fun. So we're gonna do this in order of the Star Wars timeline. I added a few shows in there. I didn't add Rebels because I have not seen Rebels. Before I start this video, I want to say that I actually don't like I don't like Star Wars now. Before we start, I would like to say that I love every single one of these movies. In fact, if I was comparing them to just movies in general, I'd put all the Star Wars films in S and A tier. I actually love the prequels, I love the sequels, I love all these movies, but comparing them to each other will be a little bit different. Does that make sense? I hope it does.
The Phantom Menace.
So we're actually going to start with my least favorite film. I'd honestly put Phantom Menace at D tier. I like this movie, I enjoy it, I have fun with it, but out of all these films and all these shows, this is honestly my least favorite out of all of them. Now don't get me wrong, I don't hate it as much as most people do. I think there is a lot of redeeming qualities, especially that Darth Maul fight scene at the end. But for me, this isn't why I like Star Wars. I didn't come here for trade disputes and taxes and all that, you know? I like those stuff fine, but for a Star Wars film, it doesn't really work for me. Of course, there's a lot of good stuff in this film. I love seeing a young Obi-Wan Kenobi. Qui-Gon Jinn I actually liked a lot. Seeing all these planets like Naboo was fun to see. I like how in the prequels these planets have a completely distinct feeling from what we got in the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. Even Tatooine feels completely different than how it does in the original trilogy with the whole pod racing stuff. However, there's a ton of stuff that shouldn't be in this film, like R2-D2 and C-3PO. They have no place in this story. It doesn't make sense for them to be here, and it retcons such random stuff in the original trilogy. Darth Maul as a villain too. I know he's great in Clone Wars, but for me, in this film, he doesn't have much of a character besides just being very, very cool. But I mean, I grew up with these films and I still love him to this day. Even Jar Jar Binks I feel like aren't the biggest problem with these films. I think he's a fine character. I don't hate him like a lot of people do. He's fine. For me at least, I kind of like Jar Jar being there just so we can see how much Qui-Gon fucking hates him. I like that dynamic.
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones is a lot better than The Phantom Menace. It does suffer from a lot of the same problem Phantom Menace does, but I do love seeing the dynamic between Obi-Wan and Anakin in these films. It's fun. Especially the opening scene in this one is so much more fun to watch than it is in Phantom Menace. I feel like there's more stuff going on in general. Jango Fett as a character alone is kind of fan servicey. As a kid, I always saw him as just blue Boba Fett. But I do like his character. I think it does add to Boba's character actually, especially in the Clone Wars series, which we'll get to later. I wasn't the biggest fan of the relationship between Padme and Anakin. It felt a little forced at some points. I do like the line, aggressive negotiations. I like that. I think it's kind of cute. But for me at least, I wish this film focused more on Anakin and Obi-Wan's friendship, as I agree with the Revenge of the Sith should have focused on. For me at least. If these two films, and even Phantom Menace to a certain extent, focused more on Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship, I feel like the fight in Mustafar would feel much more emotional for me. Which I do like that scene, but I can't get into it as much as other people do. I do love all the memes that this film in particular brought, like, I don't like sand. That one alone is incredible. I do like these movies. I genuinely do. Yeah, I do find a lot more stuff to love in these movies than I do hate. Again, if this was ranking between other films, in general, I would put these films all in S and A or B tier. I do love these movies.
The Clone Wars movie.
Now for me at least, the Clone Wars movie would also be D tier. The Clone Wars movie has no right to be a movie. If you don't know, George Lucas asked the writers and Dave Filoni to make this a movie, I believe. And they basically cut 3 or 4 episodes and turned it into a movie. And I think that was a bad idea because I was actually watching this with a couple friends and we could easily tell when an episode started and when it ended. I do feel like this movie was more fun to watch than a Phantom Menace, but structurally Phantom Menace is a lot better. For instance, Anakin and Ahsoka's arc ends in 20 minutes.
Side note, the scene where Anakin accepts Ahsoka as his Padawan is a really moving scene. I just wish that was the whole main focus of the film.
Again, when I talk about the Clone Wars show in itself, I'll gush about all the stuff I love about this show. The movie has a lot of the stuff I love from the actual show. I feel like Anakin and Obi-Wan are better characters for me in the show than they are in the movies. They feel more like real people with real problems, and you can really see that their friendship is real. But damn, now thinking about it, I do think Phantom Menace is actually a lot better. There is a lot of weird stuff with this movie, like Zero the Hutt. Of course, this movie introduces us to characters like Rex, and it was nice for Anakin to meet Ahsoka. So I do like this movie. It's just by far the worst. Actually, now thinking about it, it is the worst.
The Clone Wars.
Now it can actually be positive, thank God, dude. The Clone Wars is somewhere between S and A tier. I think I'm gonna say A tier because this show is not that great in the first couple of seasons. I'd say the first 2 seasons aren't as great as this show in the future. There are a lot of great arcs in the first 2 seasons of this show, don't get me wrong. Like, my personal favorite was the Mandalore arc, where Obi-Wan clearly has feelings for Duchess Satine. I thought that was all great. But of course, there are reasons why this show is A tier. It's incredible. I mean, this gives so much more weight to the Mustafar battle. I mean, Obi-Wan and Anakin's friendship is incredible. I actually saw a video by this Star Wars YouTuber named Hello Greedo where he talks about how people did not like Ahsoka in the beginning. And there's like a comment message board, and I feel like one specific comment perfectly captures why I love the characters in this show. Someone said Anakin was like a mix between Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, and I feel like that's a perfect way to describe Anakin in this show. He's great in this show. I know this is kind of a fan servicey idea, but I would love in the Obi-Wan show if there are flashbacks to the Clone Wars that are live action and we do get Hayden Christensen acting like this version of Anakin, because I thought this version of Anakin was incredible. Of course, this show gives so much to the clones to do. These clones feel like real people, which is so weird and ironic that the clones in this show have more character than the stormtroopers who are actual people versus the clones who are literally a clone of one dude. That's weird. There's a great arc in the beginning of season 3 about the clones. It's called the Domino Squad arc. Such a great arc. If you haven't seen this show, you need to. And of course, Darth Maul shows up and he's incredible in every way. I love this show so much. I can't wait for it to come back because when I'm filming this right now, it hasn't showed up yet. It comes out next month. I'm hyped as hell.
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith is B tier for me. I think it's the best out of all the prequels by far, and it does a lot for Star Wars. I think out of all the prequels, this is the story that needed to be told, showing how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. Senator Palpatine is incredible in this movie. He steals the show every scene he's in, and this movie has so many great memes too, like hello there, this is where the fun begins. All of that stuff is so quotable. I have the high ground. It was definitely my favorite movie as a kid, and for good reason. It's so dark but action-packed and fun to watch. Of course this film has its problems, but I don't care because it's such a blast to watch. Sure, the writing's weird, as all these prequel movies are, but I love it so much. I have such a fun time watching this movie. And of course, the Mustafar scene is such a fun scene to watch, and the score by John Williams.
Solo.
Solo I'd actually give a B tier too. I feel like Revenge of the Sith is a little bit better probably, in my opinion.
Alright dude, I guess this is why you don't make a video before you rewatch all the movies, because I just resaw Solo and bro, I was so fucking wrong about this one. Solo is A tier. It's incredible. I loved it. What am I talking about here? B tier? Worse than Revenge of the Sith? Nah dude, this film is great. I love it. And you know what? Clone Wars is S tier.
I'm a big fan of Donald Glover, especially in Community, so seeing him as Lando, one of my favorite Star Wars characters, was just so fun to watch. I think he was perfect as Lando. Alden Ehrenreich.
Alright, I googled it. That's definitely not how you pronounce it. This is mighty embarrassing.
I felt like he also did a good job playing Han Solo. He really made it his own, you know what I'm saying? It didn't feel like a copy of anything or an impression. It felt just Han Solo. Obviously, I don't think he's as great as Harrison Ford, but those are some huge shoes to fill, and I feel like he did a great job. This movie didn't really need to be told, but it was fun to watch. It's probably one of the most fun Star Wars movies to just kick back and watch at any point. If you're not really into Star Wars, I feel like this would be just a good fun movie to watch. Solo. Solo! Hey, pun! I didn't mean to do that. Incredible.
Rogue One.
I think people give Rogue One a lot of shit. I don't think it's C tier. I think Rogue One is B tier. I think... Ooh, which one do I like the most in B tier right now? Now that's a hard question.
Who do I like the most in B tier? It's Solo. A tier, baby.
I think I like Rogue One a little bit more than Revenge of the Sith. Actually, I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this movie. The ending scene alone with Vader was incredible. I think the characters were fun and enjoyable too, especially like the droid K2SO. I know he's just stump comedy relief, but he was a lot of fun and I enjoyed his character a lot. I know there's a lot of cheap nostalgia baiting in this film, like having AT-STs and C-3PO in it, but I liked it because I'm such a huge shill. But man, this film is filmed really well and it really looks like the original trilogy in that same style. It fits perfectly with those two movies in my opinion.
The best one.
Thank God all that's done, because now we can talk about my favorite movie on this list, which is A New Hope. S tier, no contest, this film's incredible. I have nothing bad to say about this film. I literally can't think of one bad thing to say about this film. And as Luke looks into the dual sunset with John Williams' music playing is incredible. I'll never get over it. This was the first Star Wars film I saw, and I just remember the first time I saw it. It was the greatest thing ever, watching this movie for the first time. And it really made me love Star Wars so much. This film is so much to a lot of people, and for good reason. These characters are incredible, and this film started an entire franchise that still makes so much bank.
The Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back is also S tier. I have very, very little bad things to say about this movie. I love it so much. The only reason why I think A New Hope is better is honestly because of nostalgia. Because I've seen A New Hope as a kid like hundreds of times. Well, I've only seen Empire Strikes Back 4 or 5 times. I don't know why. A New Hope is definitely the film I've seen the most. I think out of any movie. Maybe I've seen Toy Story 1 and 2 more. Maybe I've seen Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. That's not really the point. I gotta talk about Empire Strikes Back. No more about A New Hope. I need to stop gushing about A New Hope. This film's incredible, dude. It gets so dark in a lot of places where A New Hope didn't. I feel like it shows a lot more to the Star Wars universe that we haven't got yet. Like, for example, Hoth or the AT-STs and AT-ATs. It's so fun to watch Han and Leia's relationship work on screen. I feel like that by far they have the best relationship out of any of these relationships in the Star Wars movies. They were by far the best. I forgot about Yoda, dude. I forgot Yoda was introduced in this movie. And Yoda by far is one of the best characters, if not the best character in all of Star Wars, right? I don't even think that's debatable, man. I fucking love Yoda. If you want to put my homie Nuvo Vindi ahead of Yoda, I mean, feel free to. You'd be wrong. And of course, the big reveal in this film is Darth Vader is Luke's father. Which, interesting note about that actually, when I saw that as a kid for the first time, I thought it was ripping off Toy Story 2's reveal that Zurg, the toy, was Buzz Lightyear's father. Jesus Christ. So even though I did see the original trilogy first, that scene had no weight to it because I thought they were fucking ripping off a Toy Story movie. Oh no.
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi is B tier, man. It's definitely better than Rogue One. But I don't like this movie as much as the original trilogy.
Bro, are you dumb?
I think they did a disservice to Boba Fett's character by killing him off so easily. And of course the Jabba the Hutt plan makes no sense, but tons of people have already made videos about that. And the Ewoks are kind of dumb. I love them, but they're dumb. But this movie has such great highs. The scene where Luke turns Vader to the light side is incredible and moving. And of course, that ending, where Luke just sees his father and Obi-Wan and Yoda. I love this movie, man. Obviously, I don't think it's as perfect as Empire or New Hope was, but I love Return of the Jedi, man. And it's really hard not to. This is such a great movie.
The Mandalorian.
But it's not as great as my show Mandalorian, which is easy S tier. Not as good as Empire Strikes Back, but it's the best thing since Empire Strikes Back. God, I love this show, man. Baby Yoda, or the child actually. The child is the cutest fucking thing ever, man. And Mando is just such an awesome character. You really do get attached to all these characters. And the final episode with the final reveal of Moff Gideon having the dark saber just made me so happy. Seeing the live action dark saber was so nice to see. Seeing the live action dark saber gets me so excited for Mando season 2, and obviously Mando getting the jetpack. And of course my favorite episode is the episode with the comedian Bill Burr. I mean, Mando feels like a real threat in that. He seems like a horror villain. He's horrifying.
The Force Awakens.
Now we get into the sequel trilogy, which right now is by far the most hated of all the trilogies, but personally, I love it a lot. So I'd give Force Awakens an A tier. I think it's a really fun movie to watch, and it really reestablishes a lot of characters, archetypes, and stories to the viewer. Yeah, of course, there's a lot of similarities to A New Hope, but of course, A New Hope's S tier for me, so I didn't bother. It never bothered me while watching it. And I know J.J. Abrams get a lot of flack for the mystery box thing, but of course watching it for the first time in theaters, seeing all these mysteries, had me wondering and theorizing for a really long time. Now it's debatable to say if these mysteries panned out well. Personally, as most people think, I don't think so. But I loved all these characters like Finn, a rebellious stormtrooper who leaves the First Order. Kylo Ren, I thought he's a great villain, and I honestly think he is a better character than Darth Vader, even though I love Darth Vader more.
I should say though, as a whole, Darth Vader is a better character to me, but just looking at the movies alone, subtracting the comics and the Clone Wars, I think Kylo Ren is a better character.
And I also really liked Rey in this movie. Her theme from John Williams, Rey's theme, was of course great, but everything John Williams does is great, and I think it's the best theme in the sequel trilogy. Yeah, man, I had a lot of fun with this movie. Sure, there's a lot of things people don't like in this film, but none of it really bothered me. I feel like I lost a lot of people with that one, and if you felt like that one angered you,
We could just skip this one.
This is not going to go the way you think.
dude, Last Jedi is S tier for me, and that's not a joke. It's definitely my least favorite in the S tier category, but I love this movie. For me, the thing I love the most about this film, oh, people are gonna hate me for this one, man. But the thing I love most about this film is the connection between Rey and Luke Skywalker, man. Luke is in his A game in this movie, and I think Mark Hamill gives his best performance in all of Star Wars. And of course, this film really solidifies Kylo Ren in this movie. He becomes such an incredible character in this movie. And honestly, the scene where Yoda just teaches Luke about failure is honestly my second favorite scene in all of Star Wars. My first is the dual sunset scene. That's my favorite scene in Star Wars. But man, I love this scene. And I know a lot of people don't like the third act of this film where Luke Skywalker fights the First Order, but he's not actually there. But it would take away from the theme of being a legend in this film and what that actually means if he was actually there. Rise of Skywalker. And of course that leads us to our last film in this tier list. I do like it a lot more than Attack of the Clones. But I also like it a lot less than Solo. I think I'm gonna put this in B tier. This one's by far my least favorite in the sequel trilogy. I feel like it retcons a lot of the stuff that Last Jedi does right. The Rey being a Palpatine thing I think is way less interesting to me than Rey being a nobody. And of course, while watching this film, I had a bunch of plot holes in my head saying, how does this work? Why is this there? And I feel like a show like A Clone Wars for the sequel trilogy would clean up a lot of the stuff better, explaining how Palpatine came back to life, why Palpatine told Kylo to kill Rey if he wanted Rey so badly, or why Palpatine explained to Rey her plan when Rey was about to kill Palpatine anyways. But of course I'm a shill, so hearing all the voices of all the Jedis, I love that scene. I thought it was great. Seeing her back in Tatooine was fun. I feel like this film does have a lot of good ideas, and I really do like the Indiana Jones type adventure they go for in the beginning. But it is clear that these films didn't really have a plan, and I feel like Rise of Skywalker makes this the most obvious. This film does do a lot right for me. There's a lot of stuff I do like about this movie, but it's by far the weakest in the sequel trilogy. Now again, I'd like to preface that this is just my opinion, and I love all these films and shows in here, all of them. Even the stuff on the D tier, I love. I don't just like them, I love them. Anyways, this was a lot of fun to film. I really enjoyed this. I'm definitely gonna make another tier list video in the future just because of how much fun I've had with this. I'd love to do like an Office seasons or characters rank, something related to The Office, because man, I love that show. So if you'd like to see anything like that, or just any of my more videos, click subscribe. This is fun. Thanks. Bye.